Well, James, it wasn't long ago that Florida Governor Ron DeSantis made political history by announcing his intention to run for president via Twitter Spaces, which is basically a sort of radio station for social media. Now, he's a man chasing a younger demographic than Trump, and he's been proven at polling booths that he can actually win some elections. He's also Trump's current biggest rival. What do you make of this gladiatorial embrace between Trump and DeSantis?
Well, I like them both, and they're the only two, in my view, that can win. I mean, unless someone gets sick or dies, it's going to be Trump or it's going to be DeSantis. DeSantis won in 2018 by a few thousand votes with the Trump endorsement, but you can't deny that he was just fantastic through the lockdown. He stood up to the public health cast, and he read the data. He realized that Sweden was going down the right road. He closed down for about a week or two, and so he was better than Trump in terms of standing up against the thuggish, authoritarian sort of lockdowns. But he's got to be an underdog against Trump. So I think in one way with the Twitter stuff, everybody knows that the media leans left massively. They're not reporting the Hunter Biden laptop. They got Pulitzer Prizes for the ridiculous Russia collusion scam. Trump's instinct is to fight. He just goes out and calls them fake news. He fights them. DeSantis approaches it differently. He just ignores them. He just completely ignores them, and he announces on Twitter. And so they're, in a way, they both agree in substance, but their approach to how to deal with it is different.
Well, one of them has to win, James, and there is no escaping this conclusion. And whoever that is will be facing up against Biden with sort of Kamala Harris draped around Biden's shoulder as the vice president in waiting. But should Trump and DeSantis be careful not to fatally wound each other or disenfranchise the Republican voters at large? Because the worst case scenario surely would be a demoralized Republican base that are too bruised and scarred to actually show up for the presidential election.
Yeah, they have different strategies. Trump owns the Republican base. I mean, it's 43%. They'd walk over glass for the guy in bare feet. So he's never losing the base. I mean, that's patently clear. Trump's problem is appealing if he were to win the nomination, his problem is appealing to the sort of independents. The Democrats hate him, but they hate DeSantis too. Washington Post, which never ever had Trump ahead of Biden in a single poll before the 2020 election, has him up 6 points, I think, on Biden. So he's up at least as much as DeSantis on Biden. But that's his problem. Trump's problem is not the base, it's the opposite. Whereas DeSantis's problem is if he wins the nomination and he does it by a brutal attack on Trump, he may not have the Republican base, as you say. And then, people just assume that the base will vote for DeSantis, but it's far from clear that that's the case. It depends how DeSantis handles his nomination. I mean, the real thing that people like about Trump is he's a fighter. He doesn't give up. They lied about him. They tried to hobble his presidency. They're bringing court cases now that are laughable. The one in New York City is laughable. They've got billionaire Democrats donating so that they can extend the statute of limitations. They're doing things like that, and it just doesn't seem to kill off Trump. So I would expect more. I would expect the Democrats to bring more cases against him, and they never would bring these cases if Trump weren't running for president. But you'll probably see something from the Department of Justice. You've got the New York City one, which they scheduled for March, the judge, which is right in the middle of the primaries, which is, disgraceful, really. But so Trump is like this thing they can't kill off. And they're worried that if he were to win, he might have learned that, you have to be very careful about the people you appoint to your top administrative post. You really just can't trust very many people. And the bureaucracy, the upper echelons of the intelligence state have proven to be woeful. 51 of them signed that letter about the Hunter Biden laptop. They knew it wasn't true. They had to have known it wasn't true. The FBI, conducts raids against Trump where you call out the press. You have helicopters. They're in flak jackets to look at the declassified or the non-declassified documents. With Biden, Biden has more of them in more places, less secure, and they have a little talk with the lawyer. It's just not the same treatment depending on which side of the aisle you're on. So DeSantis has to win without alienating the Trump base. That's not going to be easy for him to do.